Things have been a bit on the tense side for Al Gore lately. On the one hand, he's made a fortune with his movie, his books, and his partnerships in carbon trading companies. But on the other hand, the number of skeptical scientists is multiplying, and their reach via the internet and talk radio and conferences and seminars is increasing. Mr. Gore has become hounded wherever he goes.
Mr. Gore? We're not doing interviews right now.
Mr. Gore. Mr. Gore, would you correct the record?
We're not doing interviews right now. Excuse me? We're not doing interviews right now.
Recently, he appeared before a meeting of environmental reporters, and he found himself challenged.
A judge in the British High Court, after a lengthy hearing, found there were 9 significant errors. This has been shown to children. Do you accept those findings, and have you done anything to correct those errors?
Well, I'm not going to go through all of those. The ruling was in favor of the movie, by the way.
The ruling did find that there were 9 factual errors in the movie, and they told the British schools to hand out a list of those errors and corrections to every school child who saw the movie in the future.
Well, the number of polar bears have increased, actually, and are increasing.
You don't think they're endangered, do you?
The number of polar bears have increased.
Do you think they're endangered?
The number of polar bears have increased. I mean, all right, if the number of polar bears increase, surely they're not endangered.
And that was the end of the discussion. The man in the audience was cut off. And then there was this little misspeak when Al Gore was on the TV with Conan O'Brien.
2 kilometers or so down, in most places there are these incredibly hot rocks, because the interior of the Earth is extremely hot, several million degrees.
Whoops. A slight exaggeration there, Mr. Gore. The middle of the Earth is about 5,000 degrees, not millions and millions of degrees. The trouble has followed Al Gore right into this bookstore in Chicago, where he was having a book signing.
Can you comment on the email documents that were revealed hacked on Climate Gate? It says that the research is a fraud and it's fraud simulated. Can you give a comment? Can you give me a comment, sir? It's fraud. Eugenics operation.
And finally, as another man was being escorted down the escalator, he shouted one last time,
"There are 30,000 scientists trying to sue this guy! John Coleman, the founder of the Weather Channel, is suing this bum!"
Oh, and by the way, I'm not suing Al Gore. Even as the talk of global warming grows, we're being subjected to the coldest, snowiest northern hemisphere winter in 20 years. With good reason, lots of people are wondering about Al Gore's dire predictions. Oh, and by the way, did you see this? After the record-breaking snowstorm in Washington, D.C. last week, the family of Senator James Inhofe made this igloo out of some of that snow. And after building it, they put a sign on the igloo that reads, Al Gore's new home. I'll have a few final thoughts when we come back, but first, Heather Moore has one more question regarding carbon dioxide.
Thanks, John. Now, a pretty important question about carbon dioxide, or CO2. When we create that so-called carbon footprint by burning fossil fuels, how long does CO2 remain in the atmosphere? Here are your choices. A, forever. Once we exhaust carbon dioxide into the air, it's there forever. B, it lasts for just seconds. It almost immediately settles out of the air into the ground and oceans. Or C, 5 to 7 years. Or D, hundreds to thousands of years. We'll have the correct answer right after this break. Now, about that question, how long does CO2 remain in the atmosphere? Here's the correct answer. It's C, 5 to 7 years. There have been at least 20 serious scientific studies seeking the answer to this question. No two agree precisely, but the answers fall in that range. You can find more on those studies on the Coleman's Corner webpage. Now, John, back to you.
Thanks very much, Heather, for being with us tonight. Well, last week, the National Weather Service announced that it's establishing a new climate change office with the current head of the NCDC as its director. He's a disciple of Al Gore and outspoken in saying the office will be devoted to advancing the global warming agenda. Meanwhile, the Environmental Protection Agency is pushing ahead with its ruling that carbon dioxide is a pollutant. The UN is planning another climate summit in Mexico City as early as next year. The state of California is working to implement a cap-and-trade system to cut carbon dioxide emissions way back to the 1990 level. We're getting some media attention. Look here, the first-page story from the New York Times. And listen to this document that has surfaced from deep in the IPCC files. The number 2 man at NASA's Goddard Climate Center at Columbia University reviewed the IPCC Chapter 9 before it was released 3 years ago and wrote, quote, "There is no scientific merit to be found in this executive summary. The presentation sounds like something put together by Greenpeace," unquote. His statement concludes with the suggestion that the entire summary should simply be deleted. The authors looked at his review and dismissed it with one word: rejected. And as of tonight, there's only one TV station in the entire United States that has done a primetime program presenting the skeptic side of the issue. I thank KUSI for this opportunity. It is exceptional. And as for me, I won't give up this battle. And as we leave you tonight, there are some people we want to thank. We turn once again to those creative people with Minnesotans for global warming. Here's their version of Van Morrison's classic Tupelo Honey, rearranged as Two Below Honey.
And you can take all the trees in Minnesota, put them in a big old pile for me, and chop them up and throw them in the wood stone, with the hope of gaining 1 more degree. The high today was 2 below, honey, and I've got frostbite of the 3rd degree because of wind chill. The high today was 2 below, honey, so don't be talking climate change.